The theme is the dialogue between a man and a woman, which is what it is. And this album is part one of at least two. That's for sure. And we originally were calling it an earplay.
Heartplay.
Yeah, it went to Heartplay, which still contains the word ear. Meaning apart from we hold popular kind of, music on it, which we like, there's also a theme running through it. And it's also a story. But a story with not much description, just dialogue, those kind of movies. Or a radio play, they can't afford to have too much description and long panning shots along the shore and down to the little house on the beach. You just got, radio, you just hear shh, they start talking. We'd done 22 songs, basic tracks. So then it was like having a lot of movie filmed, or like the way they filmed two movies. And it was a matter of which scene started where and which scene works with the next. There's been a lot of shuffling around, as you can imagine.
I was used to working with other people, but not with women,
A woman who's a wife as well. It's a totally different thing. And this time around, for some reason, we sort of regained our respect for each other suddenly. And maybe through this sort of...
I also think this album is just like... It's just like the beginning. I think we've got some interesting spaces to go to, because we worked together before in many different ways, but still I always had that sort of vague attitude that I was the one. I know all about this business, and I know what a backbeat is, right? Well, now I know that she knows all about this business, and she knows what a backbeat is, and all, etc. And I think this is the first piece of work we've really done together. Really? And for my part, I just know I will even be more wholeheartedly immersed in working with her in the future because of the experience of doing this album. You see, in the early days when we were recording together, I was having great fun because she was so free-form, And but when the engineers would talk, Yoko would say, because she's trained musically, I'm not going to go through her list of qualifications because it sounds like I'm promoting her, I don't have to. But she knows she's trained as a musician since birth! So when she would say to an engineer in 1968, even though it was a free-form jam, I'd like a little more treble, a little more bass, or there's too much of that, whatever you're putting on that. They'd say, what did you say, John? Yeah. Now women are conscious of that now, and it's talked about a lot, but those days I didn't even notice it myself. And she'd say, didn't you notice that when I talk to them they answer you as if I haven't spoken? Now I know what she's talking about, especially it's happened to me in Japan too, because in Japan, even though I'm well known there, she's the queen of Japan, and so when they talk in Japan and I say cup of tea please in Japanese, they say, he wants a cup of tea to her in Japanese. And so I really know what she's talking about now, but she'd been getting it a long time from engineers and anybody around us. So I really understand it now on not only as a feminist issue, but as being the other, And there's no more of the other now.
When the two gather together, I mean, there's nothing you can't do. So it's, as a power, it's very strong. But of course, John has a different, he can't help it, with his different history from mine. He's a man and all that. So he has different dreams, and I have a different dream too. When it happens, it's really powerful. But sometimes two people might be praying, but at the same time, secretly thinking about something else or whatever, then it doesn't happen. So that sort of unified wishing or praying, is something that doesn't happen that simply.
Well, that shows in the album too, because what's happening is that instead of the consciousness is to let's see what future or what we, to use the term prayer, what we shall pray for together. Let's image, projecting the same image, and that's that is secret.
See, of course, in the fantasy world, and you think about fantasy as separate from reality, but fantasy is almost like the reality which is to come, So in that fantasy world, of course, someone like George Orwell would have created 1984, which is the general trend of the male species, I think, up to now. Because, sort of,
He coughs. I agree with that. That's what she told me since we met.
So
interesting.
That's why I said it badly this afternoon. It was.
But like H.G. Wells, and all that. People saying incredible what they said happened. Of course, it's not prophecy. It's like a form of prayer, and
It's what they call it, wish fulfillment.
Right.
The other day there was another quote. Remember I showed it to you? The guy had predicted which World War, the Third World War, and where it would happen. And they're saying, oh, look, it's happening just like he said.
Right.
And our game, or whatever it is, has always been, when they say, well, what are John and Yoko doing bed-ins? We used to say, well, we want to do a commercial for peace on the front page of the papers instead of a commercial for war. And the reporters are going, yeah, sure. But it didn't matter what the reporter said, because our commercial went out irrespective.
That's right.
I mean, they were saying funny things about us, but that wasn't the point. The commercial went out anyway. It was more important to face ourselves and face that reality than to continue a life of rock and roll showbiz and either go up and down with the whims of either your own performance or the public's opinion of you.
Because you can become a stereotype of yourself, and that's one thing we didn't want to be, in a way. And a lot of
also, I must add that I found myself in a position where, for whatever reason, I always considered myself an artist or musician, whatever you want to call it, poet, or that type of person. And the so-called pain of the artist was always paid for by the freedom of the artist. And the idea of being a rock and roll musician sort of suited my talents and mentality, and the freedom was great. But then I found that I wasn't free. I'd got boxed in. It wasn't just because of a contract, but the contract was physical manifestation of being in prison. And that I might as well have gone to a 9-to-5 job as carry on the way I was carrying on. I just got myself boxed in. And there's two ways to go. You either go, or what I could term going to Vegas, and singing your great hits, if you're lucky, or going to hell, dying, actually, literally dying.
When I was in the art world, the thing that I really despised about male artists were that, it was like a setup, like they would get one tiny idea, like, all right, I'm an artist who draws circle, or whatever, and then he sticks to that, and that becomes his label. And he gets a gallery who would promote that, and that's his life, and then next year he'll do triangle or something, and it's such a poverty of ideas or whatever, and it doesn't reflect his life at all. And then if you continue doing that for maybe 10 years or something, people start to realize you as somebody who continued 10 years, and then you might get a prize or something.
Right.
And it's such a ridiculous sort of routine.
Well, you get the big prize when you get cancer and you've been drawing circles
and then die
for 20 years. And then the biggest one is when you die, but they give you a pretty big one for dying in public. So those are the things that we're not interested in doing. And that's why we ended up doing things like bed-ins, and she ended up doing things like pop music, whereas she'd come from this avant-garde field, and I'd come from the straight rock field. Well, the first attempt at our being together and producing things together were like two Virgin albums, and the events we did, whether they were bed-ins or posters or whatever the events or films and things we did then, which is what we crossed over into each other's fields, like people do from country to pop. We did it from avant-garde left field, from rock and roll left field, and we tried to find a ground there that was interesting to both of us, and we both got excited and stimulated by each other's experiences. we wanted to know what could we do together, because we want to be together. We want to work together. We don't want to just be together on weekends. We want to be together and live and work together. So the first attempts were the bed-ins, and because that was the period too. What can we do together? We did that together. We attempted a few times to make music together, but that was a long time ago, and people still had this idea that the Beatles were some kind of sacred thing that shouldn't step outside of its circle. And it was hard for us to work together then. We think that either people have forgotten or they've grown up by now, and we'll make a second foray into that place where she and I are together, and not some wondrous mystic prince from the rock and roll world dabbling with this strange Oriental woman.
The other question people are going to ask is, why do it with Yoko, or why Yoko do it with me, which will be a question maybe in a year or two. But let's say they ask, why do it together? Because together is the only way that it is fun.
We're just a normal couple. Normal. What is normal? We're just another couple. And the things that John is saying, the things that I'm saying, are things that all men and women are feeling, but the only difference is that we're saying them. So there's nothing new in the album in that sense. I mean, everything that's said is just an age-old feeling that we all have. But the only difference is that we're not afraid of those feelings, and we didn't kill the feelings.
Walking away is much harder than carrying on. Because I've done both. I hadn't stopped since 62 or 3 till 73. On demand, or on schedule, continuously.
And it was very hard, because one always had that thing, well, one ought to, this, I'm supposed to, shouldn't I be going, like quotes to the office or producing something, because therefore I don't exist if my name isn't in the papers, or if I don't have a record out on the charts, or whatever it is, or not seen at the right, or whatever the game is. And I was saying it must be like the guys at 65 who said, somebody comes and goes, your life's over, time for golf. It's self-imposed, yes, but still the feeling was still there. Suddenly there's this whole big space that seems to be unfillable. And of course, naturally it got filled, because that's the law of the universe. Leave a space and something will fill it. And it was filled by a fulfilling experience, to put it in a little cute phrase.
When John and I go out, they would say to John, what are you doing now? But they would never ask me, because women are not supposed to be doing anything.
Well, I would say, I'm baking bread, And they'd say, what are you really doing? I said, well, I'm looking after the baby. No, but what else do you do? I said, are you kidding? Because, and there were no secret projects in the basement, because bread and babies, as every housewife everywhere knows, is a full-time job. And there ain't no space. And I got into cooking a little, and I used to say to Yoko after I'd made these loaves, so I felt I'd conquered something, that bit about, if there wasn't a mummy or a daddy to feed me, that I would have to open a can of tuna or something. So I broke through that barrier, and I watched the bread being eaten, and I thought, Jesus, don't get a gold record, a knighthood, and nothing, And I really thought of all the jokes and the sort of cliches I'd heard about women, and about them saying that the rewards of, and it's such a tremendous responsibility to see that the baby has the right amount of food and not overeat and gets the right amount of sleep, because ain't nobody else going to do it for him. No nanny, if you can afford nannies. Maybe a grandmother in the old days when the family was more extended than nuclear. But if I, as the house mother for that period, had not attended to when he slept and when he doesn't, and still I get Toshi to call from the studio to make sure that he's getting in the bath by 7:30, because his nanny is beautiful and loving, but she just forgets what time it is, and he gets extended and bags under his, and he gets tired and he gets exposed to colds and flu, and I can't switch off from here. So, and it's a tremendous responsibility, and I understand the frustration of those women, because there is no knighthood, there is no gold clock. There is a great satisfaction. I took a Polaroid photograph of my first loaf I was overjoyed when you know, I mean, I was that excited by it. I couldn't believe it. It was like an album coming out of the oven, and the instantness of it was great. And when they first ate a meal of mine, I was thrilled. And then when I ended up cooking for the staff, I was so into it, so thrilled with it, that there would all be, there was about 8 seats, people on the corner, and every day I was cooking lunch for the staff. Drivers, office boys, anybody who was working was, come on up, you know, I love it. And then it was beginning to wear me out. I thought, what the hell, screw this for a laugh, you know. I'd make 2 loaves on Friday, they'd be gone by Saturday afternoon or Friday. You know, the thrill was wearing off, it became the routine again. Yeah. So the joy is still there when I see Sean. You know, he didn't come out my belly, but my God, you know, I made his bones because I attended to every meal. And how he sleeps and and the fact that he swims like a fish is because I took him to the Y, I took him in the ocean, and I'm so proud of all those. And he is my biggest pride. Yeah. You see? Well, but you're talking to a guy that was not interested in children at all before Sean. I don't have any hankering to be looked upon as a sex object, male rock and roll singer. I like to look good and I like to be attractive, and you know, I enjoy the macho part of rock, but I don't have any need to be the idol and have people think, you know, that I just snap my fingers and teeny boppers come crawling in my bed and that's the way life is, because it ain't like that, and I don't want it to be like that, and that's for maybe for younger guys who just start in the business think, oh, good golden groupies, you know, and that's how it is. I got over that a long, long time ago, you know, and I'm interested in ourselves, the family, and making some music, and trying to make something that we are proud of, and that other people then other people can make the choice of whether they want it or don't want it, or what to make of it and what does it mean, and we'll have all the fun of that. But I'm not interested in being a sex symbol, you know, or coming on as some big raunchy guy, you know, that drops one woman, picks up another, and the whole bit. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in even projecting that, you know. So I like it to be known that, yes, she kicked me out. It took me a long time to get back in, and yeah, I looked after the baby, and I made the bread, and I was a house husband, and let them understand that, you know. And I'm proud of it, and it was an enlightening experience for me, because it was a complete reversal of my whole upbringing, and it's the wave of the future, you know. And I'm glad to be in on the forefront of that too. No, the thing of feeling that one was not justified in being alive unless one was fulfilling other people's dreams, whether they were contractual dreams or dreams about the public, fulfilling their dreams, or fulfilling my own dreams and illusions about what I thought I was supposed to be, which in retrospect turned out to be not what I am. That's what I was saying about had lost the initial freedom of the artist by becoming enslaved to the image of the artist, of what the artist is supposed to do. And a lot of artists kill themselves because of that, you know, whether it be through drink like a Dylan Thomas, or through insanity like another artist, you know, like a Van Gogh or anybody, you know, or VD and craziness like Gauguin, you know, painting a picture for his child which he never spent any time with, you know, trying to create a masterpiece to give to the child, but meanwhile the child dies, and anyway he gets VD and the masterpiece burns down, is burnt to the ground, and even had it survived, better he should have stayed with the kid. That was the conclusion I came to.
Why were you able to see that and most people don't? Most people would have gone on and did the next album.
Most people don't live with Yoko Ono.
Yeah.
That's the main difference. Or don't have a companion who will tell you the truth and refuse to live with a bullshit artist, which I'm pretty damn good at, bullshitting myself and everybody around. And she, maybe we do it for each other, but that's my answer.
Here we are, I'm going to be 40, Sean's going to be 5, isn't it great? We survived, he survived his 5 years, and I'm going to be 40, and life begins at 40, so they promise. I believe it too, because I feel fine, and I'm like excited, it's like 21, hitting 21, it's like, wow, what's going to happen, And it suddenly all came through me like that, in the form of song, although it must have been in my mind somewhere or other, all these.
So the songs are really inspired songs.
There isn't one where I had to sit down and sort of, try and make a dovetail joint, and I can't imagine how people are going to take it, actually. I have a hopeful wish, prayer, fulfillment that they'll take it in the spirit it's given, which is with love and a lot of sweat. And life's experience.
Listen to your woman, but not closely.